Anyway, thanks for joining us. I guess Chris, will start with you, and then we'll go to Zach. You guys want to introduce yourselves? How you got started in the crypto world? What chains you primarily trade on, and then we'll get into the project.
Yeah, so Zach has a lot more of a lengthy history, so I'll let him lead off, and then I'll kind of come in right after, if that's all right.
Sure.
Yeah, so I got started in crypto back in 2017. I was just new to trading and getting into different investment options, and I thought it was, I was just really fascinated about it. I've been doing stocks for probably like 3 years prior to that, but like
Mm.
nothing too seriously. And then crypto really caught my attention. And then I first started with Coinbase. I transferred some funds from Coinbase to an exchange called BitMEX, and there I experimented
Mhm.
with leveraged trading, and
Oh boy.
I learned I learned a lot from that. I had no idea what I was doing at the time, but
Yeah.
it really opened my eyes to the world of trading and getting into different tokens and speculating on those, and then reading white papers and just really diving deep into the research on all those different things. And then fast forward to about a year ago is when I started getting into DeFi, deep in the DeFi degen world, and
Yes.
it
A whole
was
nother one.
yeah, it was very fascinating. And from there, I got into projects like Olympus was one of them, or Hector DAO is probably like my biggest gainer ever. Um, and then I was like, I really like this space. I wanna start up a project. So I got together with my brother. I'm pretty interested in real estate as well. So and then my brother's a Web3 developer, so he knows how to program all the smart contracts, put up a website, get all of that going. So we launched Chain Estate DAO back in February, and through that process, we learned so much.
Yeah.
Just through how operating a project works, even the little questions like how do you even get listed on a decentralized exchange? Like super simple answer, but like when you don't know how to do it, it's like, is this really how you do it? And then just learning little things like that along the way. Um, but yeah, we learned, especially in our community, like people don't really know what they're getting themselves into. They don't really understand how to do their own research. They just kind of throw money at things, praying that they go up. Like, oh, that's a cool concept. I'm just gonna toss money at it. What's a KYC? What's an audit? Not really paying
Yeah.
attention to those things. So between that and just learning how expensive it is to build up a community, you need almost multiple six figures of a marketing budget to really get something off the ground if you really want to make it super substantial, unless you have natural growth, of course, but that takes a while. But that really kills a lot of innovative ideas, I think. And
Yeah.
through helping projects grow and helping people do their own research and guiding them along the way to make better educated decisions, that's kind of how Cardinal House came about.
Education is key. I totally agree with that. That's kind of a similar aspect we take here. Either, I mean, sometimes even project leaders of tokens, even though they start their own project, doesn't mean they understand how tokenomics works. So
Yep.
it's important for people who are starting their own projects to understand like how to actually balance buy and sell pressure and not offer like these unsustainable APYs. That I think is going to be a thing of like this last cycle, and I think the next cycle we're going to see like a much more mature market. At least I hope so. That's good to hear, man.
Definitely.
Good to hear. Great story. And Chris, your turn.
Yep. All right. So my process started a little bit later than Zach. So I started in about 2020 is when I
Okay.
really started diving deep into crypto. I'd heard about blockchain and Bitcoin and things like 2017 through then, but I wasn't extremely interested. I still had my eyes more on real estate and that kind of thing, and that's really what caught my eye and saving up for that that kind of investment outside of stocks and that kind of thing. But once 2020 hit, I started doing a deep dive, and it was, right around the time where a lot of new projects started to emerge that year. And so there was a lot to uncover. I didn't really touch any of the degen side of things for about a year and a half. So it wasn't until about 8 months ago that I really started getting into more degen DeFi projects. But up until then, it was more, top 100 blue chip things that I was looking into projects, what are they bringing to the space? Is this something that's really going to stay? Because it was, again, crypto as a whole was new to me at the time. And I started getting into more the use case behind projects, the technology side of crypto itself and how to integrate that with business. I was always very interested in, businesses are going to stay here. That's just kind of how the world works. But if crypto can somehow be integrated with the business aspect of things, then it could succeed. But if not, I didn't really see a place for it to kind of squeeze in. But as I started to do the research and figure out, crypto is going to integrate with businesses and it will be the next thing, as the next internet that will
Exactly.
be integrated and actually used. So it has a massive use case, and obviously it depends on the project. And that's kind of why I didn't get into the DeFi space all too early. But then I started, hearing about things like Olympus, like Strong Block, and I was like, yeah, what is this thing that I hear? They're talking about these insane APYs, and so I started looking a little bit more into that. And obviously, they have some issues with sustainability and that kind of thing, but it definitely caught my attention and got me looking into DeFi as a whole. And at that point, I realized, some DeFi degens do have a good idea of what you need to do that, or what you need to do to learn about these projects and that kind of thing. But most people don't. Really, the number of people in DeFi are extremely small compared to the number of people that, are in crypto. And compare that to the number of people that aren't even in crypto, it's, a vast majority.
1% of that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like this space that we're in, projects like Sphere seem big to us now, but at the same time, they're very small when you compare it to, the
Gaming.
world.
Yeah.
So that really caught my attention, and I was like, okay, so there's a lot of opportunities to help educate people around what makes a project successful, what we can do about that. So my brother and I actually started a podcast, and part of this was it's difficult to find some of the newest projects. It just sometimes it's not the easiest thing. They're always starting. There's hundreds that start every month. Or if
Absolutely.
not thousands. So
Thousands, yeah.
so it's really difficult to find those that will succeed. So we started doing podcasts, and actually the first podcast we had on was Chain of State DAO, which was Zach and his brother's project, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how we met. And we're like, you know what? This is like, as we were talking, it kind of came about that they were looking to do something similar, and so we just started this whole partnership on, this path to educating people and helping, bring this information for people that don't have the time to research. Because unfortunately, a lot of people just don't have the 50 hours a week it takes to look into these 100 projects that started. So
Yeah, and one of the issues I faced when I first started was just like there's so many fucking URLs everywhere, and every chain is like a whole different country, of sorts, where you need a different RPC and you figure out how that works, and then
mhm.
what's liquidity, how does that work? What are APYs? Like there's so much information that people need to know, and really really good to put it in perspective there, where like less than 1% of people are like in cryptocurrency, or maybe a little more than that, I don't know, but of those, a small fraction are like in the DeFi zone, which is basically like this whole new world, right? That takes people a long time to discover and get off their centralized exchanges, but when they do, it's best that they are prepared beforehand. Unfortunately, it's just kind of left up to everyone to learn for themselves. So really good use case, really really good use case.
Yeah,
um
exactly.
I I also agree. Like we're pretty much in the internet in like 1991 at this point, so it's definitely really um, a 10 to 20 year thing. I agree. So how I usually do this is I'll ask you guys some basic questions that just I have, and then I'll go through some of the community questions. And it looks like Kevin asked like 20 good ones, so I'll try to get to them all. You guys have about an hour, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
How long
sir.
you think less? Cool. So yeah, I guess whoever wants to answer, I guess from a perspective of somebody who doesn't have any idea what Cardinal House is, maybe give us the quick elevator pitch on it.
Yeah. So Cardinal House kind of has two aspects to it. The first aspect, and we'll probably not talk about this one as much because it more pertains to projects, but I kind of alluded to it when I was talking about, chain of state, how innovative ideas sometimes just fail because there's just simply not enough marketing funds backing them. So helping projects along the way in any possible way that we can through hosting them on like AMAs, getting them in contact with vetted YouTubers that we know are legit. There's so many scams out there, and different things like that, get them involved in events, getting an affordable KYC and audit, all of those services tailored towards those project developers, and really just helping them get along the way and guiding them along, for as affordable as we possibly can. And then on the investor side, there's the education content. So we do things like, the AMAs are a great way to learn about projects and really hear from the team, and you can hear the conviction behind their voice if they're super passionate about it, or if it's like obviously a rug pulled, and there's just like that you can kind of tell in their voice
Oh
almost
yeah.
sometimes, and
Oh yeah.
that's a great way to learn. We also host workshops. So we did our first how to do your own research workshop with a YouTuber by the name of Yabonks, and
Uh-huh.
it was a super awesome informational time. He's a software engineer by trade, so he was like talking about how to look in their code and stuff, and like way over the head of new people, but it was still entertaining, and he's just a really good dude.
Yeah,
We
good.
basically went over the basics, and then then branched off into some really advanced things that I don't even understand, to be honest with you. But uh,
Yeah, that's probably for the best. That's their wheelhouse, right? So
yep.
yeah.
The
The-
workshops. We
Great.
also post content on YouTube, going over a lot of different things. Cover a lot of different topics. We're also building out an education center, kind of like the A to Z, and how to understand blockchain, how to
Hmm.
understand DeFi, how to get involved, how to research projects, what to look for, what to look out for, etc. And then also just like alpha information on projects as well. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of information that comes out that might be timely. Then we'll be on the lookout for that. Of course, we got a lot of connections with a bunch of different projects. So even getting
Hmm.
stuff that's not quite released yet to the public, we might be able to sneak that into our content as well.
I like that. That's really good. And so I remember I popped in and you said you guys deal with mostly Binance Smart Chain like projects generally. Is that a majority? Am I understanding that correctly? And why do you think that is?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Um, we don't have like a preference on what chain they're on. It's more
Hmm.
like is the project innovative, and have a good community behind them, rather than what chain are they on.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think there's most projects right now are launching on the Binance Smart Chain. So if you see a majority of projects that are on the Binance Smart Chain, then that's probably why.
Yeah,
But
there's a lot of capital there.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're stuck on Harmony One, so hey.
I
All
think
right.
it shifted just a little bit recently into a little bit more Matic as well.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, people are noticing them for sure, and that's where we're going next. I mean, for us specifically, we are creating kind of chain agnostic software. So the idea is we're not going to move anywhere. We're just going to build our minimum viable product here on Harmony, where it's cheap and fast. And honestly, considering the size of the chain, our community here is really strong. Honestly, really, really strong. And active. Considering. So let's see. You mentioned audits. Uh what companies or projects do you use to help the projects that work with you conduct audits of their smart contracts, I assume?
Yeah, so we're actually going to be coming out with our own auditing service. So Cole,
Oh,
our
cool.
developer, he knows how to dig deep into code. It's basically just like reading a book left to right for him. Looking at a smart contract. And then
Sure.
also,
Yeah.
if we need help,
Great.
like if we get an overloaded amount of audits coming in, then we can. I already talked to Yabonks, the YouTuber we did the workshop with. He also
Sure.
is super super good at going into code. Like he will literally post 3 hour tutorials going over different projects like Titan, and saying like, oh, this is a one possible rug vector, or this is another, or
Yeah. Sure.
this looks
Bug
good.
vector. I like that.
Yep. So he's on board. He would be willing to do some audits as well. So we got a couple of super experienced Web3 developers. Well, I guess Diabonks isn't really a Web3 developer, but he's done hundreds and hundreds of, if not thousands of hours digging through code and really understanding what it's saying and what could be the possible outcomes.
Oh, I love it. I'd love to meet him one day too. As projects that are on multiple chains too can really benefit from a service like y'all's because yeah, it's chain agnostic. It's all of DeFi. Um, Really good stuff. So, okay, sounds like you guys are well connected. How many people are on your team total? It's you two and JoJo, and are there more than three, or is it a gigantic team? What's the situation there? And also, do you contract anybody out?
Yeah, so it's myself, Chris, Jojo, and then Cole. We
Okay,
also have Sydney, which is our graphics designer. So not necessarily
oh,
part of the core team, but still like definitely a part of the team without a doubt. We've got a couple mods, and that's kind of our start. We're definitely growing at a pretty rapid pace, so we're gonna be looking to expand into more team members in the future without a doubt. But that's where
people
we're
are
at right now.
hungry right now, and this is the time to build and learn. It's a good
Yeah.
time to build and learn when things aren't so convoluted, as they are in the middle of a bull market. Okay, so I guess the last question for me before I go into the community ones, since there's so many. What, where are your guys' revenue sources from? Do you have a token? I don't think you do have a token, right? But yeah, how are you bringing in revenue at this point as a project?
So I
Yeah.
can actually
Okay,
expand on
Chris.
that. Yeah, so we don't have a token currently. We do have one in development though. Cole's been working his butt off to get a lot of things set up. So as soon as
Yeah.
possible, we will have a token up. The token is not really going to be a revenue source though. It's
Yeah.
more going to be a token used for any purchases on our ecosystem. So if you want to
Uh-huh.
pay for an audit, you're going to purchase our token and pay for the audit through that token.
Very smart. Yep. Love it.
And we're going to have, so essentially we're trying to pull people in and we're using that to, we're going to have a 5% tax on that, on each transaction.
Okay.
From that, 2% is going into a giveaway pool for our members. And that's really where we're going to monetize some of our, or develop some kind of income for ourselves so we
For
can
sure.
keep doing this. So two of that will go into giveaway pool, really just trying to make things a little bit more fun, have some events where we can be like, hey, if you come in, we'll be doing a massive giveaway. So, stop by. And then the other taxes, a little bit is going to go to us, but for the most part, most of it's going into that giveaway pool and then marketing.
You gotta eat.
Um, exactly. So most of our income is going to come from the actual services that we're providing. So
Yep.
not so much our tokenomics, but rather, whether we're doing an audit, KYC,
Yeah.
that kind of thing for projects. And then on the member side, we also have some things. Back to the projects real quick before we get into that though. On the
Sure.
project side, we'll have KYCs, we'll have the audits. We're also
Uh-huh.
developing our own launchpad so that we can have new projects that we've looked into and we've started to align our values with. We can have them launch on our launchpad using our kind of our backing through our community.
Yeah.
And, that free marketing is going to be great. And
Absolutely.
so if they're launching off our network, or not our network, but our launchpad, we'll have kind of that community behind them, pushing them forward. And then there will also be some kind of price for that. I don't think we're completely set on those things because those are, a few months
Sure.
out.
Sure.
But on the membership side, that's the more immediate side. Currently, we're trying to, continuously grow the community. We have memberships launching next month, actually after our chess tournament, which we can touch up on a little bit, Zach can touch up on.
Oh yeah.
But we have memberships launching, and those are going to be big. Really, that's going to qualify you for a lot of the alpha information. You're still going to be getting all the free content. So all of the educational stuff we're giving to everybody, because I think that that's number one. It's more these specific examples of how the education is applied, as we go through. So the education will be kind of stagnant. It's going to be evergreen content. What is this? What is this? How do you do this? Whereas when you have a membership, it'll be what's new today,
Yeah.
and then next week you'll get that information if you're not a member, but really the alpha is coming out to our members only because we do need to find a way that we can keep doing this long term. So that's really what the whole idea behind that is. And so that's kind of where our income will come in.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah, we have a lot of things.
it's very much like B2B also, but then you also have a B2C consumer
Hmm.
aspect to it as well with like the I guess it's more like a newsletter, almost like a weird newsworthy
Yeah.
alpha kind of situation. And it kind of like you mentioned, Zach, at first, you're going to see a lot of traditional companies that we're used to in the Web 2 world. In this case, like just traditional consulting firms, if anything, like, getting businesses started and people educated kind of just come about on the blockchain. And I really like what you guys are doing. It seems like you put a lot of thought into the revenue model there. So nicely done. Very nicely done. And it seems like really well spread out too. I love it.
We got a lot of things, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
There's more stuff to that, but some of it we're kind of waiting until we get a little closer so we can, build up the support behind it when it comes up.
Yeah, and
Sure.
one other thing to mention too is that, with all of the services being paid with through our token, whether that is somebody just sending us USDC because they don't want to have to go through the hassle of trading our token or whatever, we'll
Sure.
just swap it into our token and then do the transfers there. But half of, depending on the service, for like an AMA, we're planning on having half of that, the money that we get paid. So if it's like, I don't know, $100, then 50 of that 100 would get burned. So it's
Mhm.
essentially just like our liquidity pool on our Cardinal token is going to be growing as we do more and more services. So it's almost like an incentive, because like for an AMA, if we have 10 people in there, we probably can't charge a whole lot. Versus if we had 1,000 people in there, we could charge quite a good chunk of money for that, because
Yeah.
we're providing so much value to that project, and rightfully so, right? And
Absolutely.
it's kind of like the more people we have involved, the more we can charge, and the more we can charge, the more people benefit. So it's like,
Yeah.
So we'll be burning 50% of that
yeah.
service
So
fee.
so it's like is really just like encourages people to participate, and also providing a massive amount of value to the project. So that there's no, like, I don't know if you've heard of Telegram groups like Golem's Gems, for example. They charge $7,000 for an AMA, and then there's like 600 people listening in, and it's like, it's so
That's
expensive.
ridiculous. I don't. Yeah. See, we're big on AMAs here. This is probably our almost 50th one, 50, and we've
Mhm.
never paid or pay for them. But they're
Mhm.
just like really good ways to, it's marketing. It's free marketing. It takes longer, like you mentioned at first, Zach, right? As opposed to saying, "Hey, we're going to have 50,000% APY." But it's more genuine and more sustainable, indeed. I'm glad we got this AMA in early, though. Whew,
Yeah.
$7,000. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But okay, so man, so many questions. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really going to come up to waiting until you have more users, yeah, that are participating in the AMAs to where it makes sense for somebody to pay for them. At first, for us at least, it's a lot of just getting out there as much as we can on all chains, not just Harmony One. Which is good stuff. So let's see. I guess I should have asked this at first, but when did you guys found this project? When did it begin? Is it somewhat recent?
Yeah, it was about, I believe, 2 months ago. We
Oh
really
wow.
started going hard on the community building, and
Love it.
kind of building out the master plan.
Okay. And last question for me. I guess I already said that, but your guys' responses produced a few more for me. What chain will the token be launched on? Will it be cross chain or Binance Smart Chain or Ethereum, or what's the plan there?
We're gonna start on Polygon. We did a poll in our community, and
Yeah.
Polygon won by a good amount of votes. So
Interesting.
we're gonna go with Polygon, and then
Yeah.
cross chain is definitely something that we want to expand to. Another thing to mention there is that, if somebody has an issue with paying for something on our chain, we can also always take that payment and then kind of do it ourselves for a service. So it's not like something that's a super big barrier for us, but it's definitely something that wouldn't hurt to do in the future for sure, going cross chain.
Yeah, that's true. And I tell our community a lot. We're not moving cross chain. We're adding cross chain. It's
Yes.
kind of like, yeah, in an effort to kind of like it's very fragmented, as you guys know. So it's always best to kind of try and bring them all together as best you can and educate in the process. All right, I'm gonna dive into some community questions. I'm just gonna run down the list here. Let's see. Regarding this statement in your white paper, I believe, in the future, a massive utility token backed by the biggest and best community in the entire crypto space. It's a bold claim, yet very achievable. Uh, this person asks, how will you become the biggest, and how do you quantify massive?
Well,
Good question.
massive is very subjective, of course, but
Yeah.
we have a very kind of extensive plan that benefits both the people participating in the ecosystem and the people that are paying for the services. And that's not like anything we've seen in any other communities that do AMAs or do specifically the membership research part. So combining all of those aspects together and making them benefit from each other we just see this massive opportunity for, as well as having a lot of different big marketing events like the chess tournament that we mentioned before. We think
Yeah.
that's going to be something that's huge and going to really help us get to that next level. And then just keeping on building things along those lines, different fun marketing events, and really just our focus is providing value to everybody involved in the ecosystem. So much to the point where it's like our goal is to say, like, if we pitch our membership to somebody, they would have to feel stupid to say no. That's our goal, is getting to that point.
Yeah, love that. So let's see here. Are community members encouraged or able to forward a project for review? I
Yeah.
assume they vote on some of them too. Is that, well, I guess maybe not. That's more business based, but yeah. If they feel like a project would be good fit, like do you have a process where people can do that? How do they do that? I assume maybe in the Discord or
Yeah, they can suggest it to us, DM us a link to their socials or Discord, and
Mhm.
even get their project leads on board and get them in the server. They can create a ticket, request an AMA. But in the
And I
future,
think the sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, in the future when we have our token out, that's also going to be used kind of as a governance aspect to vote for who we want to have on for an AMA, especially in a bull run when there's so many projects that are going to want an AMA, and we can only host so many. That'll be a
Yeah.
pretty big factor.
And we do
Yeah.
have, sorry, let me add to that real quick. So with the memberships, we also have a little bit more of that, a little bit more of that governance aspect for the time being. So as once we release into memberships next month, if you do have a project that you want to either get an AMA with, or us have an AMA with, or a video made on someone, or anything like that, if we get enough people that are suggesting that, we'll be very receptive to our members and what they're looking for. Obviously we'll take suggestions from anyone, but if time is pressed, we're going to take the member ideas a little bit, give it a little bit higher priority than someone that isn't paying, obviously. But at the same time, we do have like a suggestions channel that we are always willing to listen to, and we're really trying to integrate anything that the community has into what we're doing.
Yeah, I think a few things you mentioned resonate with me in particular. Kevin also asks, like, just general research too. I guess community could help with that, checking code for rug aspects, rug vectors, which you said, which I love that term. I don't know why. It's like it's like a silly word combined with like a really serious word, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, our suggestion channel is like one of my favorites. I check it every day, and we also have like an esports thing too. I think people love playing games with each other. It really brings about a sense of community. I think we had like 34 people at Rocket League last week. We're a pretty small project, right? Compared to what you guys are doing. And how many people are participating in that chess game? Isn't it? It's a ton, isn't it? Like 100 or more?
So it's only open. So it's more of a merging of communities than individuals. So it's not open to
Huh.
everyone. We have 16 participants,
Yeah.
and the 16 are some of the heads of all these different projects. Like they have a representative from Sphere, Titano. We have Parrotly. We have that. There's 16 of them. So I can get you.
MtopSwap eventually. Right.
Yes, we could have had them on had we connected a little bit sooner,
I
or
know,
had
I
you guys
know. I
on.
think Diza connected us, right? But we were just a little too late on that. On it, yeah,
uh,
we do have a few good chess players here. I've lost a lot of money to our community in chess. It's horrible. So I know it would resonate with us. We could. So do they have their own tournaments like within their communities, and then like the people who win their tournaments go on to like the cross chain one? Is that kind of how it works?
so
Or
A few of
some
them did,
communities have done
yes.
that, yeah,
that's a
but
little
some of them are
risky.
just sending their developers.
Oh, nice, risky. See, I want the best of the best to represent me. So we'll do our own little thing too. Okay, cool. I love it. I love chess too. Old school game, about as old school as it gets, I believe. Besides like tic-tac-toe or something. Um, let's see. Next question. Q2 is drawing to a close. Did you meet your quarter two milestones? Which would be your first quarter, I do believe.
Yeah, so I believe the only thing that we haven't quite hit yet, and that would be both the website, which is ready or going to be ready very, very soon. So that might be like just right as Q2 is ending, or a couple days
Nice.
after that.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
then the memberships are going to be released, I believe, a day or two before the chess tournament. So it's like a week late on that goal. But we had so much come up that changed courses. Like, planning. We didn't know if we were going to be planning this chess event or not, and we put probably, I don't know, 150, 200 hours into planning. Getting everybody coordinated and hopping on calls, getting the streaming stuff figured out. All the different things that go into coordinating that event. So things like that popped up that are really going to accelerate our growth, but are kind of going to be
It's a
stepping
lot
up
of work.
in the priority list rather than focusing on those things. So little things like that came up, but we're still going to be very close to reaching those goals.
Congratulations. Not something a lot of projects can say.
Yeah.
You aim to help and support. Your aim to help and support is very humanized. I read about the 30-minute call. What other ways are you helping and supporting? I guess you guys kind of covered that in the beginning, a number of ways, both community and project support through AMAs, through hooking them up with events and YouTubers, through what else on the project side? It's KYC audit and maybe just general tokenomics help. Kind of all around. So that question was kind of answered. Let's see. Your team is fully doxed, I believe. What are your thoughts on non-publicly doxed teams?
That's a complicated topic, to say the least. I mean,
It is. It is indeed.
there's a lot of things that you have to consider. Like, the difference between a traditional business startup and a cryptocurrency project startup is that the traditional business, they're not publicly traded. It's not like they have a bunch of investors that rely on them. They might have a couple angel investors, sure, but they don't have, say, a couple thousand investors that are really relying on them to hit their targets and keep to their word. And I think that changes the game, because a traditional business, that nobody's anonymous. Everybody has to be public with their company and when they file that.
Yeah, of
So
course.
there's it's dangerous, though, especially if you don't fail, or if you do fail. And most startups do fail. We all know that.
Yep.
And a lot of people can get hurt out there, and there's a lot of crazy people that might try to do harmful things. So especially if
Definitely
you have
many
a
people.
family
Yeah.
and and kids and stuff, there's a lot on the line if you do publicly dox. I'm not to the point where I have a family of my own yet, so that's kind of why I am comfortable with doxing. But
Yeah.
there's
Uh-huh.
And I
there's a
think
very good argument for why you would want to dox, especially as you're
mhm.
just starting out. Although at the same time, it is a business, and a traditional business is not anonymous too. So it's a complicated topic.
Yeah, I think that it is it's very hard to know whether someone is genuinely fearful of those things or is, using those as an excuse. And I think we have a little bit of different opinions on this, but I do see the safety of a family being something that, could come up if your project does fail and there is someone crazy out there that lost a lot of money because, I mean, you weren't able to succeed in the first bear market that you hit.
Yeah.
I could see, yeah, it tears apart almost every single project. So it's hard to blame the individual. So I do see that side, but then there's also a lot of people that use that as an excuse, and are rugging and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I th-
exactly. It's a catch
it's
22, right?
it really is. And so I think it's really important that, and that's one of the reasons that, us as a group for the Cardinal House token that will be coming out, I think that we're telling everybody like, hey, this is not an investment. It's a token used in our ecosystem. You're welcome to trade it, but at the same time, we're by no means advocating that you do that. And also, in by no means should you be spending everything you have on any token that is with money that you're not willing to lose. It's just way too volatile to be to be betting your life savings on token, no matter what the market cap is.
Of course.
Crypto as a whole just is too volatile. If you need that cash liquid, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Look at a time like today. It doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin or if it's, a random token that started yesterday, like everything is down and it's not going to be up just because you need it today.
Exactly. Yeah. great thoughts, guys. Thank you. Some of these questions are more general, your thoughts on X, Y, or Z general, like as opposed to the specific project. I'm gonna try and hit the ones that are project specific first. Then we can
Sure.
kind of talk about the DeFi space as a whole for the last 15, 20 minutes or so. How many paid members are there now? I mean, is there a system in place that's still being set up? Paid members in terms of like community and or like official partners that you're partnered with? Have you started with that yet? Or and if so, how many do you have at this point?
Yeah, so our paid membership program is not out yet. So we're developing an NFT marketplace where you're going to be able to mint your membership NFTs, and through that NFT smart contract, it's going to actually automatically withdraw $50 worth of tokens every single month. So it's a
Uh-huh.
$50 a month partnership or
Yeah.
membership, and um, that just hasn't been quite developed yet. That's going to be the next thing after the website gets done that we're going to be developing.
Sure.
So
Website. Yeah.
in the meantime, though, we're going to set up the Me6 membership, the Me6 bot in Discord. And
Mhm.
that's capable of doing like a role-based membership. It's just not an NFT on the blockchain. So it's not
Yeah.
as cool, you know?
Discord based. Yeah, yeah. Discord's cool too.
Yeah, not as cool as the
But
blockchain, but
Yeah.
we'll
it's
settle
not
for
like
it.
what? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's going to be releasing uh a day or two before the tournament, so July 7th or 8th. And yeah, we're not predicting a ton of paid members, especially in a bear market, but you
Yeah,
know,
same here.
we're gonna continue just to grow, and hopefully the members that we are going to acquire and we can provide value to, just word of mouth from there. You know, our goal is to make the membership so great that you wouldn't want to not tell somebody about it, if that makes any sense.
It
So
does. I mean, there's incredible amount of similarities between our projects, actually, believe it or not. In terms of like the overall methodologies you guys use, and in terms of like our structures of revenue, and in terms
Yes.
of our expectations too. It's actually blowing my mind. Even though like you guys aren't necessarily making like software, it's like a service as a service instead of a software as a service. But right, like so it's still an SaaS technically, but it's just kind of I like to hear. I'm just like to see all these projects popping up that are actually like thinking about running it like a proper business, and
Mhm.
actually and giving a shit. And like you kind of you mentioned something. I think Zach, it was you who mentioned, but you can kind of hear it in people's voice too.
Mhm.
When they're talking and such. So that's why I've tried to do as many AMAs as possible. And to that point, AMAs are a key part of your white paper. So I guess I'd ask what makes a good AMA, and what advice would you give those invited to one? Great question.
Yeah, I mean, if people can answer every question that's thrown at them, and they
Yeah.
have a solid answer for that, and they sound like they know what they're talking about,
Uh-huh.
and you can hear it in their voice that they're confident in their answers, and that they really it's hard to describe, but like some people, as I was kind of saying earlier, like you can tell if they're there just trying to make a quick buck versus if they're there, talking about their life's passion that they've been developing over the course of the last 6 months, a year, couple of years, whatever the case may be. But you can
Sure.
really hear it in their voices. Like they get excited when they're talking about something that they're actually passionate about versus somebody that just developed a project like a meme coin just to try to make a quick buck, maybe rug pull people. Like they're obviously not going to be super passionate about the topic. So little things like that, as well as just like the overall concept of it. um if it's something that's different, unique, and something that you can get excited about, that's another key thing that we look at in AMAs and in different projects.
Hmm.
As well as their revenue streams. That's a big thing now, especially because we're in a bear market. Is you can't just mint new tokens as your revenue stream or rely on
No shit,
transaction
huh?
taxes. So that's a huge thing that we look at now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
think
agree. Yeah.
I'd like to
Couldn't
just
agree more.
add. Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
I just said couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the one of the thing that I'd like to add on to that is how well the person can actually simplify what their project is. Because if
Ah.
you really understand what you're talking about, you should be able to explain it to a kid. And that's
Yeah.
really,
Exactly.
even if you're not using the correct terminology, you should be able to
Mhm.
explain in a way where everyone can, like, the whole audience can understand, what your project's doing, what it's bringing to the space. I think a lot of people recently have don't really understand either the economics behind what they're doing or the longevity, because there's a lot of kind of keywords and hype words just kind of being thrown out there, and they don't really understand, like, hey, this isn't going to be sustainable. Like, people talk about sustainability, but then they're talking about 1% a day return, and I'm like, that
Yeah. Yeah.
like there would have to be 1% increase in the amount of money flowing in
Yeah.
every single day.
Well,
And
yeah. Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good.
I was just saying, people just think I'm so passionate about this subject, so passionate.
Mhm.
That's why I started the project. That's why I did partially. It's just because like people don't think about like the buying pressure hype dying down after a long
Mhm.
period of time. They think about the next month or two after the release, or after they get a grant, or after they release a big milestone or release of the project itself. But how will you sustain your project over the next 5 to 10 years? Not just the
Mhm.
next 5 to 10 months, right? And so you really have to think of emissions as like a cost almost, right? And you have to kind of make those up with like really specific plans on buy pressure over time. Man,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I always find
totally
it
agree.
funny when people are talking about oh, I got a 6 month runway on my node project, or I got a 1 year runway. Look at me now. And they're like bragging
Yeah.
about it, but it's like, dude, that's a year. What
Yeah, I
about
know.
2 years?
Not that long. Not that long.
Yeah, and I think like one of the biggest thing, and I don't want to, because it was a big kind of red flag for me at first, but then learning more about the project, I was like, okay, that's a little bit different than what was said in the AMA. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes there's just the people that come on AMAs, sometimes their head isn't, in the vocabulary they're using. But it was said, like, essentially the guy that we had on mentioned that when we asked kind of where they saw their project in 10 years, the thought was, well, I don't think 10 years is long to talk about in the crypto space. And it's like,
Ooh, not a good answer.
yeah, but at the same time, like there wasn't any extra on, like, 10 years is a long time. I can't talk about, the future plans of, it wasn't like that. It was more
Sure.
along the lines of, I don't know if I'm going to be working in this industry in 10 years. So it
He
was
said
like,
he
okay,
didn't
you're
want to
the,
be working in
yeah,
10
he said he didn't
Maybe
want
he
to
didn't
be.
have the vision laid out that far, I definitely get that.
So
It's
it
important
wa-
though.
it seemed like a very short term play, and so that doesn't give
Sure,
me a lot
sure.
of faith in the core team if the core team isn't, wanting to be doing
Plan
that for 10 years.
planning, yeah. And one thing I'll note though, when I first started doing AMAs, even though I created this project, not to keep bringing it about this, but I'm using it as an analogy. The AMAs were rough at first. I took too long to explain things. It just it, the vocabulary wasn't there, even though I had made it, right? But
Mhm.
sometimes it's just a matter of practicing it. Like they say, when you give a speech, you should stand in front of a mirror and practice it before. Like just sit there and talk to yourself like a schizo or something. And it actually helps you. It helps you, speak about your own project, and then over time, it just kind of you learn how to do it quicker and better, and it just takes practice, just like anything else. So it could be
Mhm.
a little bit of that too, and nerves. Well,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it was a red flag, but at the same
yeah,
time, looking at the project a little deeper, I was like, okay, I believe in the project a little bit more just because of what the project is versus what this team member is, his thoughts on it are. So it it definitely gives, raises those red flags that you have to be careful and cautious in and do a little more dedicated research into if you do see something like that.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. I mean, it's hard to think 10 years in the future when one hack pretty much halts all operations on a
Yes.
blockchain.
Yes.
Pretty much everything on Harmony is at a standstill right now. They're in investigation mode, right? So, like,
Mhm.
for us, like, some of us make our livings off these, or like, I'm full time crypto, and a lot of others on the chain are, and it can be hard
Mhm.
to plan that far in the future. But you still have to, like, as a team, you want to know that the core team is like asking those questions and at least has something to say about them.
Mhm.
Great point. Let's see here. Uh, let's see. What are your? Oh man, there's so many good ones here. These are gonna be fun. All right. Um, you guys spoke a little bit about some of the events you're organizing. But maybe talk about that a little bit more. What kinds of events are you organizing, and who are some of the speakers you've attracted aside from that YouTuber you mentioned? Is there anything else?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the chess event. We don't want to give away too much about future events.
Sure, sure,
But
sure.
but for the chess event, we have the 16 projects. They're all going to be shouting us out, getting their communities hyped up, rooting them on. It's going to be a huge, huge, awesome, fun event for everybody involved. We're going to have
Yeah,
James Pelton and Austin Clark commentating alongside myself and JoJo. So you're gonna be stuck with our faces on the stream for a few hours, as well as we're gonna be bringing on a guest speaker every 20 to 30 minutes. So currently, our guest speaker list is Matthew Walker from Obsidian Console, Yabonks, Brent Streishan from, he's another YouTuber,
okay.
and gosh, I'm blanking. Chris McGauley, he's another YouTuber. He's got like 80 something thousand subscribers.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, especially in this space for
A
sure.
lot. Yeah, that's actually a ton.
Yeah, he's one of the
YouTube.
bigger
Wow,
ones. And
nice.
then,
We also have sponsorship slots being given, both for the sponsorships are both going for, and we're not charging a crazy amount. We're in the process of filling up the rest of them because of our size, and it's our first event. But that money is only going towards a prize pool, and then half of it's going towards giveaways for the audience. So we're going to be doing giveaways throughout the entire stream, different amounts as we kind of go through, just slowly increasing until we get to that final match. But we also have that little bit to try and spur the community and, get a little bit back and forth. And then do you want to talk about the event leading up to that, Zach?
oh, yeah, real quick, the last guy on our guest speaker list right now, and we're looking to add one, maybe two more, is
Mhm.
Hazy. He's another smaller YouTuber. We want to have a couple big names to have people get excited about, but then a couple other smaller names that we know are super passionate about the space that can really help them
Smart.
grow if they get in front of a big audience. So that's the
Mhm,
thought behind that. But yeah,
mhm.
the event leading up to the event, we've got a press conference of sorts. So similar to like how the UFC will do a press conference where they interview the two guys before the fight, get some trash talking going. We're having this,
Sure.
but for a chess match for
Yeah, yeah.
each.
Hey, chess can get intense. I sweated last time I played, so
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, we're
yeah.
gonna have 8 rounds of trash talking, and stay
Oh,
tuned
sick.
because we're gonna have an opportunity for the community to be involved in the trash talking. Get up on stage and say their piece about whatever project they want to diss for the day.
I love it. You guys got a lot going on. Great answers. Great answers. All right, let's see here. What do you look for in innovative projects? You mentioned, innovative is a word, that I love also, and it can be hard to innovate too. It can be hard for projects to spread awareness of their own project if they're too different.
Hmm.
So what specific things do you look for in projects that classify them as innovative in your mind?
Yes, definitely. That's a great question, and we did have an hour and 40-minute long workshop answering that question. So
Oh, did you? Nice.
I'll try to summarize it, but
Yeah, please.
the first thing is that they have a unique concept. It's not a fork of something, and it actually brings in revenue that isn't dependent on people just buying the token.
Absolutely.
That's a huge thing. Number one. The other thing is they have an ambitious roadmap. It's not just a here's my idea, let's go and run with it. It's a here's my idea and here's how we plan to build on top of that and expand it. That's
Sure.
definitely another key thing for growth in the long run.
It is.
And not necessarily an innovative aspect, but like the community behind a project too, that backs it and supports it is substantial. Like without a community, you don't have a project.
Correct.
So they're really
No
the
matter how
backbone
good
of
the idea
any
is.
project, and
Hmm.
that's another thing that you have to pay very close attention to when looking into new project is how excited are the people that are in the community about it.
So when I look at that innovation, I look like including those things like as in addition to those things, I should say, when I'm looking at a project, I think, is there a problem that this project is solving that needs to be solved? So not only are they solving a random problem, but is there a need for this problem to be solved? Is this something that thousands of people are dealing with or 3 developers are dealing with? Because they're going to have varying levels of success in, targeting those markets. So more on the business side of, is there a problem that they're solving? And then how easy will it be to utilize what they're making? You know, how user friendly is it? And I think that is something that crypto doesn't have right now. As a
Yeah.
whole, you know, that contributes a lot to why people that are in crypto are on centralized exchanges and are not in the DeFi space, is really how easy it is to invest in DeFi. Obviously the popularity and sorry, what was that?
I was just saying user experience is left behind.
Exactly. I know that's a big thing on what you guys are targeting. And that's one of the biggest. So when I heard about MTOP, I was really curious, and then I was like, shoot, like they're doing like the exact same thing we are with the NFTs, and they're doing exactly. And so I was like, this is very, very interesting. And then you talked about how user friendly you're trying to make your software, and that kind of clicked with me, and I was like, this could be massive.
Yeah, and
And so
non-tokenized revenue as well with USDC subscription.
exactly. So it's I think those are two of the big things. Is there a problem they're solving? And then how user friendly is it? And you guys are kind of targeting the 2-in-1. So making something way more user friendly is a big problem that you're solving. But for a project that's trying to go about, you know, bringing a whole new tech, it's they have to make that tech user friendly, or a third party is going to come in and kind of connect the two, which is also needed.
MetaMask doesn't make it easy though, unfortunately.
No.
It's kind of like the gatekeeper, the big barrier of entry gatekeeper that no one can quit, right? But yeah, that's good answer. So community specific problem, how realistic or how user friendly is it? User experience, having actual non-tokenized revenue, and an ambitious roadmap. Those are 5 really good good things. Love it. Love it, gents. All right. I mean, if you can say, have you found any specific projects that you're excited about that fit into that category?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
You want
So
to name a few?
yeah, the biggest one that comes to mind is Parrotly Finance. They are essentially, so you know, a traditional business, they need some level of centralization to kind of operate, right? And in the DeFi space, that is totally lacking. So they're trying to bridge the gap between decentralization and the centralization that businesses need to actually operate in the DeFi space. So they're coming out. Their biggest thing that they're coming out is with their Block wallet, which is a decentralized wallet that has a lot of capabilities for basically just like ease of use. And one example would be like all the transactions that you do for a year, you could just click a button, download a report, and then it generates all your capital gains and whatnot for accounting. That just makes it super easy for businesses to track all of their transactions. Because it's not necessarily easy to do in crypto, even though it's all public information. It takes forever to dig through Binance Scan or Polygon Scan, whatever scan method you use, and it just takes a while and can be complicated, especially for new users. So I think that I think that could be a pretty well sought after wallet. And they got so much more going on. I'm not doing them justice by just talking about that, but
I'll put the link if people want to look into it.
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Good idea. Yeah, cool, unique idea, and got a direct way to make money, so that's good.
Yeah, I think outside of them, EXO is another project that we have been very excited about. EXO Finance. What was that? EXO, yes. Yes,
Okay.
EXO.
I'm just gonna link
And then we have small reports kind of written up in our server if anyone's looking to check those out, those projects out. But there's definitely a handful that we're a little bit more excited about. I think, Zach, I don't know if you have another specific one that you kind of wanted to go through.
Yeah. 100 Days Ventures. That's another interesting
100
one.
Days Ventures?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I like these. Okay, yeah, go on.
yeah, so they're kind of doing a similar business model as Sphere, not necessarily a business model, but a similar concept as Sphere, where they're starting off as a rebasing token to kind of attract the DeFi degens in the space, and they're going to be transitioning actually in July to a deflationary model. And their whole idea is merging real world businesses to the crypto space. You know, a lot of people might not necessarily know how to do that. Like there's a lot that goes into developing an NFT or a token that isn't necessarily an easy thing to do. So they're like a business launch pad. Whatever a business needs to be done, they can kind of do that for them. Like they already have, I think it's like 5 or 6 different partnerships with multi-million-dollar companies. That's like, I need an NFT collection launch for my project, or I need a token launch, and they're like, yep, we can hook you up with that, and then in return they'll get like a portion of the NFT sales or a portion of the tokens that are minted or whatnot. It's super unique, and I think it's got a ton of potential because, you know, real world business adoption in the crypto space is what's going to really propel it to that next level.
Correct. Yep. And what was it called again? 100 something?
100 Days
100 Days Ventures.
Ventures. Okay, cool. Well,
I
thank you.
think, yeah, those are probably. Sorry.
Go on. Do one more. Do one more.
I was just gonna say the most recent thing we've been looking into isn't really in the DeFi space, but it is a bigger project, but it's definitely something that if you're here listening, you should go check out for yourself. It's the Constellation Network.
Constellation Network.
The Constellation Network.
Cosmos, is it?
What was that?
Is that Cosmos, Adam, or no?
No.
It's a totally different network.
Okay.
Totally.
I could talk about it for like a couple of hours if you really wanted me to.
Let me link that one. That's good. Thank you for that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good not only to, I'm not saying like ape these tokens, but more so like, oh dang, Crypto Vegan beat me to that last one. Nice. It's more
He
so
knows
just
what's
to
up.
kind of see what other people are doing and like and either take ideas from them, right? Or
Mhm.
note the types of things that they're doing and the methods they use in terms of sustainability, etc. So that's really cool. Thank you for those. Constellation Network. We'll leave that one as a mister. All the links are there for anyone listening in the AMA.
Yeah. We also have a video we just posted on Constellation Network if you want like a brief intro to it. But definitely check out their site and everything like that. Again, it's not DeFi. It is a bigger project, but definitely worth checking out.
Somebody asked, let's see, in the white paper it says once the 30-day is up, the NFT contract will deduct another $50 worth of Cardinal tokens from your wallet. Canceling a membership will be very easy. All you have to do is click a button that says cancel. How does that auto deduct system work? That's a good question, because for us specifically, we're just gonna disallow access to software and say you have to mint another NFT to access. However, yeah. So how does the auto deduct work?
That's a
So-
great question for Cole. Unfortunately, he's not here. I can try to explain it in somebody that doesn't know programming languages well, but
Oh yeah, I'm
it-
sorry. Yeah, I get that.
essentially what it does, I believe, is when you have to like approve the contract to spend your tokens, right, when you're minting an NFT. So it's basically you're gonna have to approve it to spend unlimited essentially amount of Cardinal tokens, and it's every single 30 days that goes by. It's just programmed to take another $50 worth of tokens. It's going to automatically calculate the price
with the price oracle. Yep.
Yep. And then yeah, it just automatically withdraws those tokens from you. So it already has permission to spend those tokens, and then at any time you want, you could just go on the DApp, view your NFT, and then I think the way that it's going to look is you just hover over it, and then there's going to be an option that says cancel, and that will basically just burn the NFT. So then you no longer have it in your wallet. So then you're not being deducted those tokens.
Yep. Nice. Yep. Very smart. Very, very smart. Wonderful. Love that. I think that's going to work out great for you guys. Let's see. Let me ask. I'm going to ask one more. There's a few others, but they're kind of general, and I'll ask. I'll ask this. What are the top 3 pieces of advice you give someone entering the space today?
It's gonna sound like a broken record, but do your own research.
Yeah, of course.
Learn how to do your own research is probably a better tip.
I was gonna say that. Yep.
That's what we really try to step in and help out with, is helping people understand the fundamentals of blockchain, and then also how that kind of relates to why a project might be cool or why it might not be cool, or how it kind of integrates with blockchain, and how the different tokenomics work, and what kind of like buy and sell pressure is created from that, what you can
Mhm.
expect from different tokens launching based on like how many
What
whitelist
liquidity
spots
is?
and stuff. Liquidity is a
Yeah.
huge thing to understand too. That's one of the more complicated topics in the space too.
For sure. It
But
helps a
yeah,
lot.
learning
If I
how to do
were
your own research for sure is number one.
if I were to give one that's a little bit outside of like the top 3 that are usually given,
Mhm.
probably one of the biggest things I learned, from coming into DeFi is really know whether your investment is a short or long term investment and know when to take profits because it is DeFi. There is going to be a bear market. There is a time when you should start taking profits, and you really shouldn't be thinking of things that have 10,000 in liquidity as being you're going to hold them until they 1000x. Like the odds are that it's not going to do that. Obviously, you can sit with that, but at the same time, it's always worth at least pulling out your initial so that you're not at a loss if anything does happen. So I think that that's one of the bigger things coming into such a small space that I've kind of pulled away because I lost a lot of money in the very beginning, and it was like, shoot, like I can't treat this like a normal investment. I can't put this in and expect to hold it long term because I came in from only thinking really 20 plus years. Um,
Yeah.
so it switched a lot.
That's more like trading advice almost because I started as a trader myself,
Hmm.
and it's it's kind of like for a lot of people it's all or nothing. Either you have it all in a token or you don't. But like you can take percentages of
Hmm.
when you're up through 2 times, you can take 10% even and
Hmm.
sell that or 15%. And it kind of just gives you most people say, "Oh, I'll take my initial out." I took my initial out. Well, what about a little bit of profit too? Like,
Hmm.
why just take your initial out? Because then
Yeah.
when it inevitably goes back down, you're
Yes.
left with literally no more, and it's not worth it, the time you spent. So, it's like little things like that.
Yes.
Have to learn.
I I think one of the better piece of advice is have some predetermined numbers. So, for example, if it 3x's, pull out half of what you have, or have some
Yeah, yeah,
predetermined numbers so you don't let emotions kind of get in the way of what the smartest play is. Because
yeah.
sure, you might have that rare 1000x, but at the same time, for every time you have that, you're probably going to have 100 projects that go to zero. So you just have to keep that in mind.
My biggest one, I guess, is in relation to that, in terms of trading at least too, especially. Treat the token that you trade as a store of value, just like the dollar bill, and treat it like points in a game. Because if you think it's going to go back up long term, all that should matter to you is trading, within the DeFi space of that coin, like 4 other smaller coins, and trying to just get as many of that coin you believe in as possible. So,
Hmm.
on Polygon it would be Matic, on Harmony it would be one, on
Hmm.
Binance it would be BNB, and just treat it literally like points in a game. And it also helps remove emotion when during a bull or a bear, because one BNB is always one BNB no matter what, right?
Hmm.
So if you believe in it long term, it just kind of really helps not only track your own performance, right, in terms
Hmm.
of literally points, but removing emotion from it.
Yeah, the last thing I do want to mention too is when you're just getting into DeFi, there's this massive learning curve, right? And getting over that learning curve often requires you to kind of take a lot of hard lessons, whether that's you trading with $50 or you trading with $50,000. The lessons are still going to be the same. So you might as well start small and not wreck yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Uh, let's see. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about the project that we weren't able to mention?
Uh, about Constellation? Is that what
Oh,
you were?
about Cardinal House.
Oh, a project that we weren't able to mention. I was like,
Oh, sorry.
I was like, hold on,
That we couldn't discuss
that we couldn't
here.
get to.
About Cardinal House, yeah.
Gotcha. Uh, I think I kind of went through everything that I come in wanting to say, unless I'm forgetting about something, Zach.
Yeah, I think we did a really good job of covering all of it.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin, for asking some great questions, and others as well. Crypto Vegan too for being here, and everyone listening. Especially thank you, Chris and Zach, for being open to this. And
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
have another one
actually,
tomorrow. And yeah.
I do have one thing actually, just because your closing stuff kind of made me think. Right now, we have 100 original Cardinal NFTs that we're giving out. We're not selling to
Ah,
100 members that for different whether it be community engagement, whether it be, we have different challenges that we're kind of going through. If you get one of those, you have lifetime membership with us. So if you're interested, join our server and go ahead and you can see what challenges there are. One of them is becoming like level 15 in the server. So it's nothing extremely crazy, but you will get that lifetime membership benefit. And then as soon as we have the NFTs released, we'll be sending them to your wallet. So definitely something to check out.
Great. That's definitely good to note. Any of those deals. Thank you. Zach and Chris, thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone for listening. We'll be talking tomorrow. So I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow about the
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm looking
sounds
forward
perfect.
to it. Thank you
We'll
so
see you
much for
soon.
having us on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks everyone.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise.